Hey, it's Mark Linear with your video thought for the day. So I was out in a wheat field yesterday, and the wheat field had been harvested, but there were loose strands of wheat around the edges that I guess the harvester had not picked up. So I grabbed a couple of them. I thought it might be fun to kind of make some bread. Now, if you look at this wheat, this is not the kind of thing you put in the blender and grind up and make bread with, because the problem is your wheat kernel is deep inside here. So you want the wheat kernel, but you've got to somehow separate out all the rest of this kind of junk. And I pulled that off. The wheat kernel is still in there. See if I can get to that kernel. It's not that easy to do. So this is the chaff. That's useless. Here is the little wheat kernel, and that's what you want. And the chaff is like, ugh. But the wheat kernel is wheat. And you grind it up, you can make flour and pies, and cakes, and all sorts of good things. But the chaff, it's really not good for anything at all. And going through that wheat field reminded me of 3 different things, and I thought I might share them with you today. Thing number 1, there's a passage in the Bible that talks about the fields are white unto harvest, and that's when they're no longer green, but they turn this color, white. And white unto harvest means it's time to gather in the wheat. And the Lord said in the Bible that the fields are white unto harvest. Pray for God for harvesters to go out to harvest the field. Well, now, the metaphor there is the field are the people. And white unto harvest is the idea that people are ripe to hear the message of God. And so the harvesters are people who are out there gathering in the people who are ripe to hear the message of God. And I've always found that an interesting passage, because God's in the business of gathering people to himself. And yet he tells us in that passage to pray for him to send the laborers to gather people in. It's one of these passages that helps us unlock the secret of prayer. The secret of effective prayer is praying for God's will to be done, because God expects us to have a role in fulfilling his will on earth. We are on a co-mission with God. Second thing it reminded me of was not quite so pious. I was trying a case one time, and the lawyer stood up on the other side, and he said to the judge, Your Honor, after Mr. Lanier's speech, I feel like I need to go biblical and separate the wheat from the chaff. And I thought, well, that's pretty stupid analogy, and I didn't think much of his separation, but that story's not so fitting for my video thought for the day. The third thought I had, which is a little more fitting, is what that gentleman was referencing. He was referencing Matthew chapter 3, verse 12. And that's a passage that speaks about how the Lord will come and he will winnow the harvest. He will come with the threshing fork, and he will take this dried wheat and he'll pull out all of the chaff and beat it so that the kernels remain, so that you've got the kernels of wheat, which are the parts that you want to eat. Even doing that, by the way, I just pulled out 3 kernels. That's pretty cool. Got 1, 2, 3. I'd like to give them to you for you to eat here. Oh, wait, that doesn't work. But then he says that the Lord will take the wheat like that, but the chaff, which is good for nothing, he'll just burn. And the point behind that parable, or that metaphor, I should say, is that we need to be the useful part that God gathers in, not the useless part that God casts away. So where does this leave me in my video thought for the day? Really just 2 of those 3 points. Number 1, I want to seek to pray God's will. And number 2, I want to be useful. And if I'm doing number 1, then number 2 takes care of itself, because I'm being useful in the kingdom of God. That's something that you can chew on. And it's your video thought for the day.